Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. On YouTube, they've written in and said, my son also gets upset and obsessed with his 13-year-old brother's feet. He gets upset when his brother has his feet uncovered. We tried having my older son cover his feet, not working. But they said also, I'm just exhausted. I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel. It's always something. We're sending virtual hugs to this mom.
And this mom also, Shannon, if I'm not wrong, they wrote an earlier text too that says, my 6-year-old child on the spectrum doesn't like when his 13-year-old neurotypical, I think, brother touches his toys or any items, tantrums and gets upset. He doesn't like to share with his brother. So, so a lot going on with this mom, and I completely understand. It is exhausting. I mean, it's tough enough dealing with a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old to begin with. And then having these issues on top of it, it's tough. So just a couple of pointers. One is that, let's start with the not wanting to touch and not wanting to share his toys. You know, first of all, it's a little bit difficult. So, you know, their age difference is quite different. So I don't know that they would be sharing toys anyway. I'm not sure which toys are appropriate for a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old. Maybe we're talking technology. I'm not sure. But bottom line is that and this is going to be a tough answer, but this is the way you deal with it. If he gets upset, now we're talking about your 6-year-old, he gets upset and he's expressing himself. He's communicating that feeling of being upset by having a tantrum, as opposed to by just saying, you know, I'm a little bit upset. I'd like you not to touch my toys, right? So what we'd like, ideally, our goal, our end result, is for the 6-year-old to be. We're not going to control the fact that he gets upset because he wants his toys, but we are going to teach him to regulate himself. And he's nonverbal. Okay, we're going to teach him to not throw a tantrum if he gets upset, right? And instead to be able to express himself in some other way. So hopefully he's nonverbal, but hopefully he's either on a picture exchange communication system, or he's signing, or he has a keyboard. What's really, really important is that he has some form of communication. Perhaps you can write back and let us know, because what you need to do is to teach him how to communicate. Here we go. He doesn't like his brother to touch any of his things, books, sensory toys, anything that belongs to him, which honestly is okay. And it's, you know, that's not a big crime. If there are gestures and a speech device, okay? So I think what you need to do, this is probably what I would do. I would take all of his things and I would identify on a list what are the things that it's okay for the family if no one else touches, and what are the things that others will need to use or touch. So there, you know, certain toys, it's totally fine. Sometimes our kids want to have their own thing. And by the way, hoarding behavior or this kind of behavior that you're talking about usually is a result of a little bit of anxiety. So it is okay for him to have his own things for this time frame. He's only 6 right now, so it's okay for him to have his own things. But what you want to do is teach him maybe a location, a cabinet. It's only with your older son, I understand. And it's okay because he's for some reason feeling threatened that your older son might take those things away. But what I think you need to do is teach your younger son to put the things that he doesn't want anyone else to touch in a specific cabinet or drawer or a place where that's his. Anything in there, we're not going to touch right now. It's yours, but you're putting them away. You're not leaving them around or whatever. And if he's engaged in playing with them when your other son approaches, I go back to the original question, which is, can your other son play with other objects or interact with other objects sitting next to your 6-year-old, so that your 6-year-old starts to feel safe about the fact that your other son is not going to take those items away from him. If that's possible, that's probably where I would go, because clearly your younger son has some sort of anxiety about your older son taking those things away from him. And we want to try to get away from that. Now, moving on to the issue of the toes or the feet, let me ask you a couple of questions about that. When you say he's obsessed with, what does he do that indicates that he's obsessed with? Like, does he like to look at the toes? Does he play with the toes, with the feet? What is his behavior that we want to change? Okay. Shannon, are you there?
Yes, I'm totally here. We're waiting for her to write back. We have other people who are writing in. He points at them and cries, she says.
Okay, so I'm not sure if there's any kind of, I think at this point I would try to figure out what interactions may have happened between the two boys. Because my thinking is that something would, and I think what you should do is probably put a camera in the room or something when they're interacting. Let's try to figure out what's going on, because it sounds like he has a little bit of a fear of your other son, particularly of your other son's feet. I don't know if your other son may have accidentally or even out of frustration, like kicked him or kicked his toys, or some sort of interaction has led to where they are now, and we need to kind of train that fear and kind of change things a little bit. So I think I would probably want to observe without being in the room and figuring out what's going on exactly. And I see that the parent is saying, I was thinking that could be the reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to, being the middle child of 3 children, I just want to talk about sibling interactions for a second. And your 13-year-old might be a saint, might be an absolute saint, but there are sibling interactions, and, you know, he wasn't 13 forever. And when he was 8, he might have done something just to see what the reaction is. And while I think that siblings of people that are on the autism spectrum grow up to be the most incredible people on the face of the planet, my child is an only child, but I remember when he was in kindergarten, 2 of his buddies were kids who were neurotypical but had siblings that were on the spectrum. And he would go to their house and play. And we quickly discovered that these kids were very adept at knowing which buttons to push. Like, they would do this all the time with their brothers on the spectrum, that if they wanted something, they knew, I just have to do this, and then he'll have a meltdown, and then I get the toy. Like, it's a survival thing. We're not saying that these are horrible siblings, but stuff happens.
Yeah.
So,
and also, Shannon, you point out something very important, which is that, you know, siblings tolerate a lot. Like, we just have to be very aware of the fact that I think it was another mom saying it's always something, or, you know, and or maybe saying mom, and it's just like, I'm so worn out, right? Siblings kind of feel some of that as well, believe it or not. I mean, they're not doing as much as you are as a parent, probably, but a lot of times siblings are very exhausted, very worn out. They don't necessarily want to deal with this. They don't want to be, and then most of the time, our children on the spectrum get all the attention. So our siblings are also frustrated in the sense that they're not getting attention, they're not getting the time that they would like. So it is not uncommon for siblings to act out in one way or another just because their level of frustration is higher, and also because they're trying to get attention as well. So, I mean, it's very important to pay attention to that and realize that siblings are people too, and it's a huge issue because yes, and Shannon is right. A lot of times they grow into more incredible human beings. A lot of our therapists and supervisors who are siblings are absolutely incredible. They have just such a different perspective. But meanwhile, they do go through a period of frustration because their lives are also saturated with this issue of autism.
Yeah, and I'm thinking a 13-year-old probably really is very, at 13, you're really concerned about your stuff and nobody's touching your stuff. So can't there just be a rule for a little while? This stuff is your stuff, as you were saying, and this stuff is the 6-year-old stuff, and as you said, here's the family stuff, and anybody can touch that. And just being black and white with the rules.
I just think, yeah, I think there might be, Shannon, and I'm not sure, but there might be a little bit of each one kind of trying to tick the other one off a little bit, because there's a little bit of, usually what happens is we all get frustrated and then we deal with it in kind of a slightly passive aggressive way. So in other words, we hold on to the anger or frustration and we kind of take it out in these little other ways, and that could be happening as well.
In fact, a lot of our viewers are writing in and talking about their sibling issues, and it's not always really like good stuff. So I'm hugging this mom and hoping that she can figure it out and make it so that everybody feels safe. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.